Good evening. Welcome to the Wyndham Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It's Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. and we are in the Jordan Small Middle School Gymnasium. May I have a roll call, please?
Christina Small.
Here.
Jessica Bridges.
Here.
Jenny Butler.
Here.
Jody Carroll.
Here.
Caitlin Downs.
Here. Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Joe Kellner. Shar Jewell.
Here.
Mike McClellan. Here. Lillian Nugent.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Nope, we don't have any adjustments tonight.
Okay, now is the time for public input, but seeing no public, we will move on to superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to May. It's officially May Day today, and you can already feel the excitement and accelerating of activities that are happening throughout the buildings. A couple of things that I just want to highlight tonight. First of all, Jackie Rallis, who is the kitchen manager at the Wyndham High School cafeteria and runs the food service program there, has been named as Maine's School Kitchen Manager of the Year. And that became official this week. And just congratulations to Jackie. Also, just to mention for everybody that May 3rd is School Lunch Hero Day. And definitely all of our school lunch people do an outstanding job and are heroes. And Friday is a good day to go ahead and celebrate them. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been sharing a little bit about Molly Platty, who was participating in the Speak Out contest for the Lions Club. 2 weeks ago, right during break, she participated in the final round, which was the state contest at the Grand Summit Hotel at Sunny River, and she won. So our very own Molly is the state champion for Speak Out, and her message was about gun control. And so congratulations to Molly. A couple other things, the chamber singers, first of all, did an outstanding job with the third grade chorus from Wyndham Primary School at the art show the other night. But last night they did a concert at the Franco Center in Lewiston. The Franco Center was supposed to have been the first stop on their spring tour, which unfortunately got canceled because of that freakish snowstorm that we had in early April, where everybody lost power. I had a chance to talk to Dr. Rick Nickerson today about it, said one of the best concerts that chamber singers in all of its history have actually given. The energy, the excitement, I think they had close to 300 people in attendance that night, or last night, and just a wonderful night for the kids, but also a wonderful night for the community of Lewiston and some of the people who showed up last night for that. Also, again, I want to thank all of our RSU 14 art teachers who put a tremendous amount of work going throughout Wyndham High School. And actually, I've noticed each of the buildings also have a lot of student work up right now. But we had that great opening Monday night celebrating the arts in RSU 14, and tremendous job showcasing the talents of our kids, but also a lot of work done behind the scenes by our teachers. And we had a chance to congratulate them Monday night at the performance, but also just a big shout out to them and thank you for their work. Next Wednesday night, our school resource officers and our school safety team will be putting on a public forum workshop for the community on school safety. And it's actually an item that came out of board goal work this year, and even the survey that was done. It will be a quarter-page ad in the Eagle this Friday, which goes out to every home, and then we'll have an announcement going out tomorrow, inviting members of the communities of Wyndham and Raymond to that. And so I had a chance this week to meet with the safety team and the resource officers. They're excited to be able to go ahead and present all that's done in school safety, and then also have a chance to hear on what we're doing on the technology side for safety, and then also some of the building assets and things on safety. So next Wednesday night, May 8th at 6:30, right after the facilities meeting, which we'll have. That's all I have tonight.
Okay, next up, board roundtables. Anybody have anything they'd like to share? Sure.
I'll go. Following,
I'm sorry, Jenny.
Oh,
Said
you
sure,
said-
it's okay.
my apologies.
What I'm going to share tonight is going to make Marge a very happy lady, which I don't get to do very often, so I'm feeling rather special this evening. So I originally came across an article, and the title of it is America's Fight to Save Handwriting from Extinction as IQs begin to fall for the first time ever, and teachers warn some 20-year-olds can't even sign checks anymore. So I'm just going to read some excerpts from this article. The US government removed the skill from the core curriculum in 2010. Handwriting is considered a fine motor skill that stimulates and challenges the brain. Previous studies have revealed the IQ scores have dropped for the first time in a century and indicated that technology could be to blame. Kids and young adults who don't know how to sign their name or read cursive. New legislative bills have been passed in states like California and New York, requiring students aged 6 to 12 years old to learn cursive writing. Last year, researchers at the University of Oregon and Northwestern reported that IQ scores had dropped because technology shortens attention spans and decreases the need to think deeply. Teachers and coworkers continue to struggle with ineligible handwriting, and a 2021 survey conducted by OnePoll on behalf of BIC USA found that 45% of Americans struggle to read their own handwriting, while a shocking 70% reported that they have trouble reading notes or reports from their coworkers. In the wake of turning to keyboarding instead of writing by hand, educators have found students' IQ levels are shrinking and place the blame on technology in the classroom, Psychology Today reported. A professor of education at University of Calgary echoed the sentiment, saying that 5-year-olds are not meeting academic benchmarks because of the accessibility of digital devices. A new study published in February by researchers at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology found that handwriting is linked to increased cognitive brain function, motor skills, and memory. This requires the brain to communicate between its active parts, which in turn puts the brain in a state that helps both children and adults learn more and remember better. The push is also in response to ever-increasing artificial intelligence technology, which Quirk Silva believed will cause teachers to return to handwritten essay exams, necessitating students' ability to write in cursive because it's faster than print. It's about the embodied cognition and the circuitry behind personal messages that are beneficial both for the person who wrote it and the person who read it. Handwriting, particularly cursive, presents the idea of what's called embodied cognition, meaning it acts as a switch to lock in your memory. So going back to our push to teach kids how to sign their name in cursive, I think it's very interesting that studies are coming forward showing that the loss of that skill is negatively affecting IQs. And it'll be interesting to see how AI plays into future academics, because the point that it made in the article was that teachers are going to start making kids do stuff handwritten in class because they can't use AI to create homework assignments if they're doing handwritten assignments in class. So it's just be interesting to see what comes down the pike and how that shapes education going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you. I will echo what Mr. Howell had heard about the Chamber Singers concert up at the Franco Center last night. I went up and I had not heard a singing group perform there before. I'd been there for some other things. The acoustics are amazing. Great turnout. The kids had a great time. The audience had a great time. There were several chamber singers who were alumni in the audience, and they were invited up to sing Caledonia, which is one of their favorites. And it was just a marvelous show. And from what Dr. Nick said, they definitely want to perform there again. So great job, Wyndham Chamber Singers.
Awesome. Jess?
So also to piggyback on what Chris said, I have a third grader and I can tell you right now, their enthusiasm to see these chamber singers sing was amazing. Now, granted, we need to work on their rhythm, but they were so excited about being able to see how they went from third grade to now they're in high school singing chamber singers. And that was worth every minute of that.
March?
Okay, first, thank you, Shep, for reaffirming my thought. Glad to hear it. We'll see where that goes. I really, I want to thank PowerServe. Now, when I say PowerServe, that's at the high school, but Saturday, Matt Perkins and I don't know if it was the whole girls lacrosse team, but it was most of them came down to the Wyndham Community Garden. And let me tell you, when I say they worked for half a day doing paths. They hauled wood chips from out in the wood chip pile, spread them, did a lot of fix the fencing. So the Wyndham Community Garden is really in debt to them now. And I wish them well in this season. The other thing is, went to the capstone project the other day, which is astounding. I know it's hard. If you work, you can't get to it. Christina and I were there, and it was unbelievable what some of these students have gotten involved in and are able to really express it. I have never seen a lot of adults be able to address something the way that these students have done it. They do an excellent job. I mean, if you know, they said, "Do you want a grade?" And I said, "I don't want a grade. We just want to see what they're doing." But it was extremely impressive, extremely. So I say good luck to them, and I think it's a good thing that was implemented a few years ago. And I think we still have the community service piece of it, because a lot of the stuff that they do involves that. They came from many different ways. I think it also helped them in their future where they want to go, because some of them have gotten involved in where they feel they're going to be employed later or go to school for. That is stuff that they've already started to look into and become involved. One of them wanted to be a nurse. She's already volunteering at one of the nursing homes and other places to see. So it's really, I think, a great program. So I loved it.
Jody? I just deleted all my notes, so I'll just go off memory for May 17th, Jordan Small Middle School. Instead of doing a field trip for grade 5, they're going to take the Dear Graduation. I think you're a keynote speaker, Mr. Howell. So they're going to take the Dear Graduation ceremony and blow it up to really pay homage to the work that the SRO has done with that grade this year and make it a celebration in the learning. So that's at 12:30 here at Jordan Small Middle School on May 17th. Family and friends are invited of those students, and certainly any board members were able to attend. I'm sure it would be a terrific event to drop into.
So last month, the Social Justice League attended Wingfleet's 7th annual New England Youth Summit, and their presentation was called The Buddy Bench, Inclusivity in Action, which includes the differences between creating friendships as a kid versus a teen. And I just want to say congratulations for those who were involved in that. I know that social justice also collaborated with civil rights and the Black Student Union, which is a new club at Wyndham High School. And they did an amazing job on that. Also piggybacking off of some members here, the seniors who presented their capstone was like, it was amazing. I was looking at all my friends and I was so proud of them for doing that. And it's something to get off of their plate, especially with graduation coming in. And the art show will be displayed until May 3rd, which is this Friday, I'm pretty sure. So for those who haven't seen any of it yet, you still have until this Friday to look at that. And the student council is holding a prom drive for those who have not received a suit or a prom dress yet. you can still get a rented or free suit and prom dress up until May 3rd by calling the main office at Wyndham High School. So that's a really good new kind of opportunity for students. And finally, the senior courting ceremony for honor societies will be held this Sunday, May 5th at 5 p.m. All seniors in National Honor Societies and Language Honor Societies will receive a cord for graduation. So that's a huge achievement as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we will move on to committee reports. Finance.
Just a quick update. Thank you, Chris, for the update on the construction. So I just want to mention that we did get funding or did close on the construction loan yesterday and received that funding. So we're moving forward with that. We anticipate approval next Wednesday from the state school board for the site development package to go out to bid. And one of the very cool things that I think it's happening with the funds here and very smart, so kudos to the finance team once again, is that we're able to take those funds and invest them for a very nice interest rate. So we'll earn some money on those funds before they are spent for the construction. So thank you again.
Facilities.
As Chris said, next meeting is May 8th.
Okay, policy.
Yes, so you'll see one policy for tonight that we're taking a look at. We're still camped in these student policies. And tonight you'll look at JKD. The last two meetings we met on April 22nd and the 29th. And essentially we're looking at the expulsion of students policy, JKE, the JKER, the regulation that goes with that. And we've also been investing some time into some of the work around tobacco and possession on site. You remember that we just approved the GICK, GICH, and the substance policies with that regulation. And so essentially what we're doing is taking a look at the tobacco use and possession policy as well. So you'll see in the next few weeks, hopefully the next month, you'll see some of those policies come through. So ADC, the J policies around expulsion and their regulations. And so we are going to meet on Monday, the 6th. And curriculum. We haven't met, but we meet on Monday at 3:30 to discuss pre-K.
Okay, moving on to report of the secretary. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the April 3rd, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Board discussion? All those in favor?
Christina Small.
Yes.
Jessica Bridges,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs. She gave me a thumbs up. Yes, there we go. Marge Gaboni,
Yes.
Char Jewel,
Yes.
Mike McClellan,
Yes.
William Nugent. Oh, sorry, William. Oh, sorry. They're going a little too faster on my list.
Right, motion carries. May I have another motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the April 10th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Board discussion? All those in favor?
Christina Small.
Yes.
Jessica Bridges.
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs,
Yes.
Marge Gaboni,
Yes.
Char Jewel,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, next item is public comment for Title I application. If Christine, Director of Curriculum, would come to the microphone.
I believe that all of you have a copy of our latest updated. This is my annual public comment notice or public notice for our application for Title I funds. I need to share a little disclaimer. These pre-allocated funds just came out last Friday. We got a correction today, this morning. So I'm going to explain why there's a little bit of blank on the bottom for that piece. If I am looking at the top, Title I, for those listening at home, is supplemental instructional services. This is where we pay for our Title I ed techs, teachers, anybody who falls under that category. We are looking at a decrease of $28,000 on that line for Title I from last year. We use that for homeless, supplemental instruction for literacy, mathematics, and family engagement for Title I night. Our grant projects for Title II include a decrease as well of $16,000, a little bit more from last year. And what we do in this title is we pay the salary and benefits in a class reduction project where we pay the benefits and salary of a kindergarten teacher from the Wyndham Primary School. Any money that is left over from that gets transferred into Title I, so we move it back up to that first bucket. The same thing with Title IV. We are actually getting an increase of a little bit more than $2,000 in that line, and we will be transferring the $51,000 there into Title I to cover all of our staff in that area. The reason I can't give you like how much would be going from Title II is we are still in negotiations, and so as soon as Stacy has those numbers, I can reflect that in the maths. Putting in there for that piece. We just don't have a solid number right now. I know you're looking at me like I was looking this morning, like this was a decrease of 8,000 and it turned into 28,000 this morning. I worked with Stacy. We are going to have carryover. We are going to be fine to cover our existing positions for next year. And we'll use these funds like we have traditionally in the past to support students in literacy and mathematics and also support our families when we have those Title I nights. The other part with these funds, we're finding maybe there's a decrease, but we're having other opportunities to write grants. For example, you've heard of the literacy grant that we were awarded this spring. That was $89,000 we brought to the district. And we also received funding for our summer academy program at the primary school this summer. So all of the salaries, benefits, and supplies will be paid for through a grant and not out of your local budget. So. Happy to answer any questions. This will be posted on our website, and I will take any comments up till May 15th. Any member of the community or the board or staff can email me with their comments on how we intend to spend these funds to service the children RSU 14. Questions? Jody?
So last year, you gave us an update about the new system for direct search or whatever it ended up being with a multiplier in Maine as far as how that was going to be determined.
Yes.
Can you help us understand how that, any info on that, but also how it contributes to the decrease, if at all?
So the decrease comes from the federal government. So they come up with a number that they're given to each state. And then the state takes that, runs it through a formula, which the spreadsheet was wrong last week. The decrease really is not in effect. When I do the application, that just says where I can spend the money. So our amount each year is based on the amount the federal government gives to the state of Maine and how they spread that out. So we are one of the districts that did not get a bigger hit than some other districts, but they were notified ahead of time.
So can I just ask a follow-up then? So the free and reduced, there was a question of whether the free and reduced would be affecting funding. Is that not affecting this decrease at all?
No, they actually use a certain formula with a multiplier for something else. So they were all staying status quo. What would happen, Jody, is some years you're up, some years you're down. So your funding was all over the place. And now they've kind of constructed a formula that keeps you pretty steady from where you are. I know 28,000 seems like a lot. But in the scheme of how much money they are making available, we're not too bad. And I'm extremely proud of our staff and how we program here that we make this work for our kids. And we will have carryover. We don't go and just spend it. We actually roll it in so that we're able to provide that service and we don't have to come to the local budget for that piece.
Can I just jump in also for a second? Jody, I think also getting to your question, one of the things that Maine is looking at is poverty rate, because what we're seeing for free and reduced applications is down statewide because with free meals, there isn't the necessity for families to fill those out like they did. So they are looking at a separate part for that. The other thing that's kind of nice about the formula that, first of all, our free and reduced, when we did do it, is good for a couple of years. So that number holds steady. In addition, under federal Title I, you can't have your allocation reduced by more than 5% in any given year. So there's a little bit of a circuit breaker to keep districts that might have some swings from losing too much. But definitely there's a working group. Unfortunately, a lot of these formulas are written into legislation and require changes at the legislative level in order to be able to do that. So definitely there's some work trying to look at the formula because if Maine continues to stay with free lunches, it's not going to hold true.
I had a quick question. So this year you stated your intent with the Title IV funds, to just still put it back up in the Title I bucket. Is that something you typically do, or is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's what we've done the past couple of years. We used it one year when we first started and hired our tech integrators. We were able to rate some projects, get their equipment, get them up and running, pieces like that. Now they're all set, so we're using those funds so that we have the staff that we need to support our children. And anytime you see, like, we've come to you multiple times, there seems to be more grants or funds available that are targeted, and we're jumping in, writing those and keeping fingers crossed, and we've been getting that. So I'm really excited about that piece.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, new appointments. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the following appointments for the 2024-2025 school year. Rich Drummond, health teacher, Jordan Small Middle School, bachelor's 28. Salary is currently being negotiated, so there is nothing to show here yet.
Second.
Thank you. More discussion.
Okay. I just want to say, I was on the school board when Rich Drummond, when he came to town, so to speak. He is presently, as we all know, been our athletic director. He has done a totally, amazing job. And I say across the board because it's all of he's very, very invested in every team out there. I don't think he favors one over the other. He is a unique individual. He has a good rapport with his coaches. He has great rapport with the kids. The kids love him. I give him my blessing because he had a set of twins that went through middle school, high school, and now they're graduating college. And by the way, he had them in the school while he was coaching. He said that was a very difficult time for him. He did a great job. He's a great dad, great guy. And I'm very, very happy that he is going for a position that's still within the district and not leaving us.
Sure.
Chris, could you explain to whoever's maybe listening now or in the future that why we're voting on it when the salary hasn't been negotiated, please?
Yeah, so if the board had voted tonight on the salary would have been changed anyway, because you're in the midst of negotiation. In essence, what you're approving tonight is a contract to Rich to be a probationary teacher here in RSU 14. As far as Rich goes, obviously I've had the personal chance to work with him for a number of years. But in addition, we need to get Rich on a contract so that we can open up another contract and get a process going to replace Rich, which I don't think can be done. But we need to move through this so that we can actually get that filled because preseason starts August 12th, which is not that far away. And he's going to be a tough person to replace with all the institutional knowledge he has. But that's why we're trying to get this as soon as possible so that we can start a process.
And to follow up on that, I'm sure you know the Charlotte, for the public, it's not that we're negotiating with Rich, it's that we're negotiating that contract of all of the teachers. All right, all those in favor?
Christina Small.
Yes.
Jessica Bridges.
Yes.
Jenny Butler.
Yes.
Jody Carroll.
Yes.
Caitlin Downs. Marge Gavoni.
Yes.
Shar Jewell.
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, policies. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the first revised reading of policy JKD, suspension of students.
Second.
Thank you. Public comment or discussion? Jody, you want to give a high level?
Sure. Do high level on this one I mentioned earlier. We're doing some student policies. Suspension is right inside of the packet that we've been working on around discipline expulsion. This one specifically it was updated to reflect Maine state law
The language changed for the grade limitation. You'll see the highlighted portion in the policy states that we're not suspending under grade 5. For 5 and below, there's different interventions that the district uses to draft this policy. We used a Drummond Woodsum sample that reflected essentially the language that you see here, as well as an MSMA sample. And then we made some, I would say, changes that are not substantial. There's some word substitutions, and then updated some of our policy language at the bottom for new titles. For example, our sexual harassment, hazing policies, etc. Questions? All right, all those in favor?
Christina Small,
Yes.
Jessica Bridges,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs. Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Shar Jewel,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, renewal of administrator contracts.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for 2025 through 2027 to the following administrators: Elizabeth Peavy, Principal, Raymond Elementary School; Michelle Brand, Principal, Jordan Small Middle School; Kyle Rhodes, Principal, Wyndham Primary School; Danielle Danini, Principal, Manchester Elementary School; Ryan Karen, Principal, Wyndham High School; Crystal Vago Ward, Assistant Principal, Manchester Elementary School; Phil Rossetti, Assistant Principal, Wyndham High School; Vanessa Michaud, Assistant Principal, Wyndham High School; Diana Jordan, Assistant Principal, Wyndham Primary School; Craig Hames, Head of School, Assistant Principal, Katahdin Program.
Second.
Thank you. Board discussion? All those in favor?
Christina Small.
Yes.
Jessica Bridges.
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs. Marge Gavoni.
Yes.
Shar Jewel,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next
Okay.
one.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for 2025 through 2026 to the following administrators: Greg Applestein, Principal, Wyndham Middle School; Amanda Ruth, Assistant Principal, Wyndham Middle School.
Second.
Thank you. Board discussion. All those in favor?
Christina Small,
Yes.
Jessica Bridges,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs. Marge Gavoni.
Yes.
Shar Jewel,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Okay, next item, RSU 14 warrant and notice of election.
I move to post the warrant and notice of election for the Regional School Unit Budget Validation Referendum presented to the meeting be and is hereby approved, and that the Regional School Unit Budget Validation Referendum be and is hereby called for June 11th, 2024, for the purpose of approving the budget adopted at the Regional School Unit Budget Meeting for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Second.
Thank you. Board discussion. All those in favor?
Christina Small.
Yes.
Jessica Bridges,
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs.
Yeah.
Marge Gavoni.
Yes.
Shar Jewel,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Okay, next motion.
I move to approve that, to vote that the warrant for the Regional School Unit 14 budget meeting presented to the meeting be and is hereby approved, and that the Regional School Unit budget meeting be and is hereby called for May 15th, 2024, for the purpose of voting on the annual budget for the Regional School Unit for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, and that the notice of amounts adopted at budget meeting presented to this meeting be and is hereby approved, and that the superintendent of schools of the Regional School Unit 14 is hereby authorized and directed to complete said notice by adding the amounts approved by the voters for each expenditure category and the total school budget summary expenditure amount, all in accordance with the regional school unit budget meeting on May 15th, 2024, and to cause copies of said notice as completed to be delivered to the municipal clerks of each municipality of the regional school unit for posting at the polling places for the June 11th, 2024 regional school unit budget validation referendum.
Second.
Thank you. More discussion. All those in favor?
Christina Small,
Yes.
Jessica Bridges.
Yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs.
Yes.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Shar Jewel.
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda, RSU 14 legal services. So just to help frame the discussion, I'm gonna recap. So on April 3rd, Shar brought up in board roundtable that we had never bid out our legal services. It may be in our due diligence to ensure we're getting the best price, and I'm paraphrasing, but you can speak into that in a little bit. And then Chris gave a high level kind of overview of what Drummond Woodson provides to us. So tonight we can have that discussion, barring any objections. I'm gonna ask Mr. Howell to provide kind of a more thorough review of our current legal services.
Sure. So I think as I shared at the last meeting, Drummond Woodson has been legal representation for the district, I think, as long as I've worked here. It's been a number of years. I think what's unique about that particular practice is that while they have a private set of attorneys, and they also have a set of attorneys that work on the municipal side, they also have really the only portion that is a comprehensive school law practice. And just some of the services that are provided currently by our legal team, special education policy regulations, both state and federal, and specifically when any issues come up with any sort of representation or any sort of legal matters with that. They do also provide general representation for us and any legal matters that are brought against the district. They also do specific contract development, specific to requirements outlined in Title 20A. And some of the more specific ones that I think school board might be related, all of our leases, as well as contracts we do with any of our banks, as well as contracts with companies like Apple when we go out to bid. All those are developed. Bond counsel and preparation of finance documents, and specifically to the school build right now, all that was developed in conjunction with our bond counsel, and then working with our bond representative. Also, school construction contracts and helping us navigate Chapter 61, which is school construction. Preparation of referendums and all the supporting documents to make sure that they comply with all the requirements of Title 20A. Helping us work through federal civil rights complaints and trainings that are associated with that. Any sort of Maine human rights complaints, Maine Labor Relation Board representation. Student matters of protected student rights. Policy committee, policy development, feedback on that. Provide direct support for contract negotiations, labor matters, and those labor matters which are specific to 20A and how they actually apply to schools. Interpretation of labor standards and requirements as they pertain to schools. And then on occasion, they've also have done bullying harassment investigations for us at our request as we've worked through. And so just kind of an overview of all the different pieces of the practice. And I think one thing, and then open it to discussion, is that within the practice itself, there's usually 2 or 3 attorneys who specialize in whatever topic. So out of those 13 items that I've listed, there may be 2 to 3 attorneys per each one of those that we're able to reach out to and make connections in support of the work that we're doing in schools.
Marge?
Just a couple of questions. Do we keep them on retainer or is it pay as we go? I mean,
No, it's a great question. We don't have any sort of retainer to Drummond Woodson. What we pay is a specific rate depending upon what level of experience the attorney is. Some of the more expensive attorneys in the practice are the ones that are most senior that, for instance, the ones that did all of our bond anticipation notes, provided bond counsel to that. Those were all senior attorneys. Someone who may provide some basic matters on a student issue, maybe a more junior attorney, so it's kind of a sliding scale depending upon who you have. But we don't have a retainer, and basically where we spend on legal services is based on the issues that we have and how much that we need to use them. And this year, this year has been one of the lighter years that we need to use for legal services, and years where the district has gone through withdrawal discussions or has been in very heavy district negotiations through contract negotiations. Those expenses have been a whole lot greater. But obviously, the greatest amount of expense that we have done this year has been legal counsel for bond counsel, as well as purchasing property, because we have purchased 4 pieces of property, actually looking at a 5th piece of property, and then all the easements and other pieces that go along with that.
Okay, just one more. In the, well, I think they've been representing us the whole time I've been on the board. Has there ever been a time during all that time that they have not represented either the district or the board to their best? Do you know what I mean? Has anything ever come back on us because of poor representation? I guess that's my question.
Not that I'm aware of, but I thought we were actually going to ask a different question. I don't know if there's been times though where the board, depending upon the situation, has sought legal counsel from another firm, and those would typically happen if you have, because one of the first things that we check when we actually have a new situation, new case, new client, you name it, is to do a check to make sure that there isn't a conflict of interest. I don't know whether or not the board has had to engage other law firms that might be out there for a specific matter, just due to the fact that there's a conflict of interest and needing to have another attorney represent the board. But not in my history, but there were a lot of things that happened that when I wasn't in central office that I'm not aware of.
Okay, but the only one that really deals with the legal firm is you. I mean,
Christina and the principals
it's the
work with me.
administrator.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm all set, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions or either, so we're in discussion. Mike raises his hand, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would just bring up the point that from my experience, however short-lived as it is, that I can see value in engaging alternate counsel in some circumstances. And I don't think that my position is that I would challenge the quality of work that's being provided or that the number of facets, but just that in some occasions, discussion with the full board to get alternate counsel in situations that are, I'll say very directly, highly contentious, because I do think that is the smallest piece where legal counsel really interpreting the law is such a narrow hallway. There's really not much to it, but there are some situations, in my view at least, that the interpretation of the law and the risk that it presents to the board to be advised in certain circumstances can be interpreted multiple ways. And so I would just keep the discussion open to say that if we're happy with Drummond, that we would be open-minded to engage alternate advice in some circumstances. So that's the only piece that I would just add to the conversation, that it's not necessarily choosing a different law firm. I do think there's value though, on another note, to looking at, I think that the heart of what you were saying was also around the finance committee. We talked about this in finance in a few minutes time, was really the cost of those services. And certainly you pay for what you get, the quality of the work. I'm also not challenging that. The legacy that Drummond Woodson has in school law has proven itself. But I would just say also that the cost, I think, is something to consider when we look at when we're sole sourcing something.
Just pass those
So those are my 2 comments, just for the full board to think about. And if anyone wants an example of my first comment, I can certainly provide one, but those are my general comments. Mike?
Thank you. So I have a question and some comments. The question would be, so we're not challenged to periodically bid things out. Do we have to in anything we do, buying buses? We just basically do what we want?
No, there are some things listed in statute that you do have to do. So purchasing insurance, you have to go out every 5 years.
Yeah.
Legal services is not one of those
Okay.
items that are required for you to have to do that. Also, some contracts based on policy you're required to do, but other than that, there's nothing specified in statute to say that this is a requirement.
Okay.
And just what I passed out, just in case people, that's what we've spent in each of the last, I think, 8 years for legal fees. In fact, I think I gave my copy away.
Okay. The few comments I had otherwise were, you listed a whole slew of things that they do, which is awesome. And I would contend if we were looking, other practices might have those services as well. I can say like a year ago up in Augusta, I spoke with some lawyers in the hallway here and there. Now Drummond Woodsum has like high 90% of all the schools in the state, from what I understand. So when I spoke with people, different lawyers, their first thought was like it's a monopoly. Like, they don't have an avenue to get in anyway. And then there was actually a little bit of excitement, like, oh, I mean, maybe we should look more at that. So I guess I offer that to the board. I think your comments are well taken. But I mean, that's the value of looking at things periodically. You know, I assumed every 5 years or 10 years, the board would be looking at it. So just wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, I don't think.
So I'm just basically gonna echo what Jody said as far as, contentious areas. One of the areas that the board has been criticized on in the last several years, at least my tenure on the board, is that some people think that Drummond and Woodsum interpret the law incorrectly, that the guidance that they're giving us is not an interpretation that they agree with and they find fault with. And then we're faced with documentation from other attorneys in the state who interpret laws differently than Drummond and Woodsum does, and would give us different, at least it seems that they would give us different guidance. So I think that in contentious situations, certainly we should consider getting alternative viewpoints when it's possible. But just from a fiduciary responsibility, I think it's reasonable to check our pricing. I'm not coming from any basis of any factual knowledge that we could have better pricing from a different firm. I just think it's part of our due diligence as the fiduciary responsibility of the RSU to be able to verify pricing with other firms that provide services, any of the 13 that were mentioned. In my professional life, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, I have like 6 or 8, I think 8 attorneys in 3 states that I talk to on a regular basis, and that does not count the suite of attorneys at the corporate office in Virginia that I talk to on a regular basis. And they all have a different specialty. And I think one of the good things about Drummond is that they have that suite available, one-stop shopping, but that's also kind of part of the problem. Like Mike said, it's kind of like a monopoly. So I think that is something that we should look at. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, I'm more than happy to reach out to my lawyer friends in the state and ask for recommendations if they know any other firms that deal with our type of, I'll call it business, because it really is, just so we can do some investigation, and I'm happy to help with that.
So Joe's not here tonight, but he sent some comments for the discussion, so I'm just gonna read his real quick. He said, in my review, Drummond Woodsum seems to be the only law firm in Maine that has substantively engaged in the practice in the areas specifically related to public school law. This does not mean that others couldn't develop this competence, but in my review, although brief, it doesn't seem another firm offers the breadth of knowledge and experience in this particular area. There are some individuals and groups, both in and out of state, that have taken issue with Drummond Woodsum and have suggested that the firm is pushing a social and or political agenda. I want to be very clear that I have not seen any evidence of that in our district or others, and that would, of course, be ethically and morally problematic. To the contrary, I've seen the work product reflect a material interest in protecting the interest of the RSU and ensuring we are compliant with Maine law. To summarize, I do not have any hesitation in saying that Drummond Woodsum is a great firm to represent our RSU. With that said, I do see value in diversification of legal services on certain matters. By way of a truly hypothetical example, we could consider using another firm for representation in litigation matters or labor matters. In my experience, diversification can be a good strategic move as it is a defensive mechanism. By using other well-established law firms, it can prevent those firms from representing an opponent in a suit against the RSU. So that's just what he had to say, not being here. Go ahead, Jess.
Just a quick question. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. If we were to switch at this point in time, the middle school project has to start all over again. Is that correct?
At this point, it would put a lot of things on pause. Specifically, and I think the part that we would struggle to immediately fill would be the financial background and school construction background that we currently have representing us. Those would be very, very difficult to fill, and that would slow things down. It would slow a lot of our easement work down because those things are already in the works and progression. And again, it's going to slow the financing down for our eventual bond sale coming up next year. So yeah, it definitely would have an impact on those items, because I'm not aware of a place that specific to schools has that. There are some firms out there that may have some municipal work that they've done with towns and town managers. But specific, the individual that's working on ours has advised the legislature even on development of state statute and how those things happen, and choosing to represent us right now. So yeah, it would have an impact.
Chris, are you saying that if we went with another firm for, let's say, an employment matter, are you saying that Drummond and Woodson would fire us as a customer?
Didn't say that at all.
Okay, so the way I took,
Middle school construction and just where we are in our legal work with the middle school build.
so I just want to make sure that I was understanding the question and your answer, because it kind of sounded like you were inferring that if we branched out to other firms, that we wouldn't have representation consistent with what we already have for the middle school. I just want to.
No, I guess maybe if I just clarify the response, which would be, I don't think we can fill the void in a timely enough manner to meet all the different timelines that we're currently trying to hit throughout that process. The other thing I just add to that is that as the person who has probably the greatest number of interactions with the attorneys across the district, it's taken years to build relationships with different attorneys that there's some in the practice that I feel comfortable with, and there's others that I don't. And so being able to make sure that we get the correct advice and being able to, I'm sure you run into that in your position, being able to then find and rebuild those relationships is going to take a little bit of time.
No, understood. And I'm not in any way insinuating that we should wholesale change legal services across the board. I'm not insinuating that at all. But just, you know, obviously anything they're handling for us that it would be detrimental to the RSU to make a change, obviously I wouldn't support making a change. So I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that. Marge?
I think we're going down two different roads here. I think basically what you're saying from what you said is if there is a situation, this isn't a full blown, let's swap over to another thing. If there is a situation where it would probably benefit us to be able to get two different opinions or whatever on a particular thing, not everything in general, a particular thing, could we be open to that? And I think that is a doable thing, because going by what you said, Chris, we don't have, they're not on retainer. We kind of pay as we go when you need them. And if you ever wanted to check with another legal firm on something else, you wouldn't be, and this is a question now, you wouldn't be going against anything that you have in writing or anything else with Drummond with some. So I think that's a doable thing. And I don't think it would have anything to do with either dropping them, because we don't really have them. We've used them all these years, but you know, they're not on retainer. It's a pay as you go, so to speak, type thing. So I think it's a matter of, do we want to keep that avenue open, that if something comes up and the board comes to Chris and says, you know, we think we would probably like another opinion. Could we get it on a particular thing? I don't know what, I'm just reaching now that.
No,
is
if
it
you
doable?
were,
Could be doable.
if you had an issue and you were bringing suit against your superintendent, I would suggest you go to a different law firm
That's right.
and get some
Because
advice.
you're
on
gonna
that.
grab them.
No, I would have my own representation.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that would be a sense that if you had difficulties with the person that's in the seat, then that would be a place definitely where you want to do.
Yes, and I've experienced that because I did that with the town. I was the chair of the ZBA.
Yep.
And somebody had come before us against the code officer because they turned them down. So of course, the code officer had the town's attorney. So the board had to have a different attorney to represent us. So I totally understand that situation there totally. So there are times that it can be done. So I don't think it's a thing of that we have to have it in writing. I think it's kind of like an understanding that, you know, can we agree that if there's ever a situation where we, you know, the board as a whole feels that, you know, we would like to also get another opinion from somebody else, is it an issue? I don't think so. I think that's where he's all coming from, yes.
Sure, I'm trying to think through two different mindsets, two things that we have brought up that seem in conflict to me, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding. And, you know, on the one hand, we should do our due diligence to make sure that we're not paying triple, let's say, for Drummond Woodsum. If there's someone out there that could represent us well for much less cost. But then on the other hand, if you want to get multiple opinions for the same issue, you're then increasing the legal cost. So, you know, I'm just having trouble, I guess, accounting for both of those situations in my mind. And, you know, we're not making a decision today, just having a discussion about it, but that's kind of my thought as to where we are right now.
I think the other one would be a rare, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be commonplace. It might come up like once in 5 years, you know, or something like that. So I don't think it would be an impact, because first off, you're not going to hire them to represent you. You're going there for an opinion, which would be a different fee than, by the way, I'm putting you on retainer or whatever. So I think this is a simple fix rather than making a big issue of it.
Anyone else? I think I would just make the comment that I hear what you're saying, but I guess the way that the discussion's gone tonight is just, this is the work of having the discussion, right?
Yeah.
So as a team really looking at it, whether we go to RFP or not, it sounds like our superintendent wouldn't recommend going to RFP based on the work that we have today. However, having said that, there could be cost savings, that we've had that discussion. So I think there's value in that, but looking at the juxtaposition of having the consensus as a team to understand that, hey, can we bring someone else in? We've already had the discussion, that bit of work has been done. And so if it came up, to me, it seems like it could be a quick second discussion to say, hey, I'd like to put forward that we have a discussion to bring in a second opinion on this, and having done this groundwork tonight, I feel like that's a good place to stop at least. Tendering services in the district is valuable. I think we have to continue to look at it. Legal is difficult based on where we're at right now. And it's my understanding that it's one of the most important tools that you use on a daily basis to quickly resolve big problems within your job description. So certainly, at least I would voice that I wouldn't want to put any of that at risk, because that really is the underpinning of your ability to do your job. So I want to put that okay.
Well, it's interesting, and I passed out the legal budget for, this actually goes back to 2014. And even 2015 actual, which was $102,000 that was spent this year. And $102,000 in FY15 money was a lot of money. And that was a year which I think was the first Raymond withdrawal. And so there's a lot of money that was spent that year on negotiating the withdrawal agreement, plus some other work that was related to that. Going into 17, I think 17 was a negotiations year in which the board actually had legal representation at the table, which then were some of those fees that attached to that. 21, 22, we had some negotiations and we had some paperwork pieces related to that. This year, FY24 was a negotiation year. However, we've been able to not use as much of legal services, and our year to date is $24,800. So significantly down from where we've been in the past. What this doesn't reflect is we've spent probably close to $85,000 in legal fees for the new school build for all those different components, but it resides in a different budget. And those are one-time fees because we will not be building another middle school again for a number of years. So just getting an idea. And then below, depending upon what is happening with special education services and some of the issues that are taking place, getting an idea of where legal services have fallen. And then also this, Stacy tracks this every year, is what we paid in audit services running along. So in this year's budget, I think we have $125,000 that has been allocated for legal services. We will be far under budget.
Any further comments? All set. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. All those in favor?
Christina Small,
Yes.
Jessica Bridges,
yes.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Jody Carroll,
Yes.
Caitlin Downs.
Yeah.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Shar Jewell,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Good night.